So this idea of coercing individuals, right? It seems as though, I mean, I know about RICO crime. So it's when a bunch of people are working on crime together and they know they're committing fraud, they know they're committing a felony, that becomes RICO. Is that correct?
No, it's the accusation. They accuse you of being a conspiracy. That's what creates the conspiracy charge. It's like in my case, or other cases on J6. You don't even have to know what that other person is doing. Once they say you and that other person are engaged in a conspiracy, then anything that's on that guy's phone is going to be attributed to you. Anything that guy said, any shit talking he did online about the election or whatever, they're going to say is ascribed to you. But where do they get you and that guy in a conspiracy in the first place? Because they say so. So the accusation, and the other big problem is in our society is grand juries. So the grand jury decides to indict you based on whatever the prosecutor told them. They only know what the prosecutor says or what the prosecutor's witnesses say. So the prosecutor can get up there, and they do, lie their ass off, have their witnesses get up, lie their ass off to the grand jury. The grand jury has no input from the defendant. You don't even know it's happening. You're not allowed to confront the accusers. You're not allowed to cross-examine. You're not allowed to present witnesses on your behalf. You're not even there at all. Neither is your lawyer. You don't even know it's happening. That's the one-sided system for starting the process. Out of the gate, that's why they say the old saw is that a grand jury will indict a ham sandwich because the prosecutor can get an indictment no matter what. All you have to do is say the right lies and convince the grand jury. So the grand jury is treated like mushrooms, kept in the dark and fed bullshit. They agree to indict you. Now you're on this process. Now you're on the conveyor belt. Now you're like another widget on the conveyor belt towards prison. And on the way there, all the rest of it is all bullshit kabuki theater to justify what they know is going to be the end result. 98% of all federal prosecutions end up with you being in prison. Whether you roll over and plead guilty or go to trial and get found guilty, they always stack the deck, and all these judges help them do it. It's a prosecution and conviction mill. And setting aside J6 and political bias, it's already fucked. You're already screwed. If you go to trial in any federal trial, you're most likely going to be found guilty because they have unlimited resources. Whatever lawyer you can find that hopefully will do a good job, but go back to my other point about lawyers being cowardly and caring
Mhm.
about their position. And like you said, the bar license thing hangs over their head. A lot of them don't want to ruffle feathers because they don't want to be disbarred, which means they'll lose their position, their prestige, their identity as a lawyer, and they'll lose their money. Same exact reason why most cops will do whatever they're friggin' told because they identify as a cop. It's their whole identity, their whole life is about being a cop, and they don't want their pay and their pension wiped out. They'll do what they're fucking told. Same with lawyers. They're in the club, they're in the bar, and they don't want to have that destroyed. Their whole identity and their whole life is wrapped around being a lawyer. So they tend to go
Well,
along. That's why you wind up with weak sauce defense attorneys. I saw a lot of them around J6 doing horrible jobs, and a lot of them don't give their client the attention that the case deserves. On the other side, though, you got a whole team of prosecutors, like 10, 20 people working on the case to put you in prison. They've got unlimited resources. That's all they do. All day, all friggin' day, they're focused on you. Like, I had a team of like 6 prosecutors focused on me and my co-defendants. That's all they were doing the whole time. Our defense attorneys, juggling other clients. They got other cases going on. The guys that were from Texas for me, they had a friggin' like murder trial just weeks before my trial. How could they possibly been preparing to defend me zealously while they're also doing a murder trial too? Like, come on, there's no friggin' way. So that's the problem. The defense side, you've got lawyers that are still juggling other clients. You're getting maybe 20% of their effort compared to 100% with unlimited numbers of prosecutors. The AG can continue to assign more and more investigators and more, FBI and staff and prosecutors to your case. Unlimited resources. How's that going to come out usually? What do you think? And they get to go on the stand and lie their asses off, and the judge does nothing about it. And when you catch them in a lie, we caught those 2 cops, right? What happened to them? Nothing. Did the judge sanction them? Nope. It's not going to happen. Yeah,
it's so corrupt, man. It's so
it
corrupt.
is. The whole system is.
I give you a lot of credit for even fighting because like some people could look at this and be like it's an absolute lost cause.
Well, I knew it was a lost cause, but I'm not going to. Just like in wartime, if I was captured by the enemy, I'm not going to. I'm not going to go and become their mouthpiece, their friggin' songbird. I'm not going to go and help them I'm not going to go and betray my country by giving false testimony against my own country. That's how I see it. I won't further their narrative. If like Solzhenitsyn said, the famous dissident, he had a really good essay called "Live Not by Lies." First step of being a human being and not participating in the regime is to refuse to cooperate in a lie. If I say I'm guilty of something I did not do, I'm helping their false narrative. I'm helping the lie. That's why I
Mhm.
would refuse to do that. If I testify falsely against someone else and bear false witness, that's a sin too. As a Christian, I won't do that, but it's also furthering their narrative. It's the same thing as if you're captured by the enemy and you go on a broadcast saying that, yes, I was committing war crimes. Yes, my whole unit were committing war crimes. They're all war criminals. You just helped your enemy. So I'm
Mhm.
not doing that. And that's the thing is I think I really believe that it would have been better for all of us if no J6 had ever taken a plea deal ever
Mhm. Mhm.
at all. You know, and across the spectrum, across the criminal spectrum, if no one ever took a plea deal and no one ever agreed to bear false witness against other people, this machine would grind to a halt because they couldn't do it. But it's only because, and just back to lawyers. Lawyers will advise their client to do whatever it takes to get themselves out of prison or stay out of prison or have less time. And so they teach people like, oh, okay, it's okay to take a deal and agree to lie against somebody else because that's the deal you have to take. So even though they know it's perjury, the lawyers are being conditioned that this is their job. Their job is to help their client, even though their client's committing perjury, and they all know it. You know.
Okay, so you said you know it's a lost cause. Tell me more about that.
Well, I mean, I just know I knew going into J6, but I knew going into our trial that, you know, they denied us venue change. No one's getting venue change. No J6 defendant had their trial moved from DC outside of DC, even though the judges described the DC residents as all the victims of DC, right? And even though the District of Columbia had sued, so Benny Thompson filed that lawsuit first, members of Congress, but then the DC District of Columbia itself filed a lawsuit against Trump, Proud Boys, and Oath Keepers, alleging a conspiracy to attack democracy. And they said, in that lawsuit, of course, DC is the victim. Even our criminal judges said, oh, everybody in DC everyone who lives here was a victim on J6, but yet they still insisted on drawing the jury from that pool of people they called the victims. So the jury pool is drawn from the victim pool. So you have people that walk into your court seeing themselves as the victim. It'd be like if you were accused of robbing a store and they drew the jury from the people that are in the store on the night of the robbery. That's what you're going to get. So, on top of that, they're all politically biased. It's like a radical leftist who work for the federal government, or someone in their family does, and they have a vested interest in preserving the status quo. Right? They don't want the deep state taken down, and they're radical leftists. They believe you're racist. They're all about Black Lives Matter, wearing pink pussy hats, and all this kind of stuff. They got Trump derangement syndrome out the ass, and then they see you walk in, and so what are you going to get in that kind of a trial? You're never going to get a fair trial. So we all knew going in they're not going to get a fair trial in DC, but I still won't participate. So there you go.
Is the country a lost cause with this judicial
No, I
industrial
wouldn't say that.
complex?
No, not at all. I think because of the you can call it the MAGA revolution or the working class. I call it a working class revolution. The fight is between the elites and the people. I think that's legit. In fact, I heard Clarence Thomas giving a speech in Texas. I'm in solitary listening to the radio, and I catch this speech by Clarence Thomas. He's doing questions and answers at some summit in Texas, and he just comes out and says that the fight is between it's the elites versus the people. So I think he's perfectly aware of that. Him and his wife were, I'm think, obviously aware that the election was stolen. So he's letting us know that's the real fight. It's the people of the world versus the elites of the world, and they're a very small group of people, but they're very wealthy and very powerful, and they hold the politicians, the judges, Wall Street, for example, the bankers, all that, they hold they're their puppets. So what we have to do as the people is we have to dismantle that system. That's why we have to take down the deep state. And I think that the easiest way to do it, and this would be a good conversation to really dive into later, but I called for in open letters to President Trump after the election, November, December, and January, I said, hey, you need to invoke the Insurrection Act. The left is an obvious open insurrection. They've been all through the summer, but COVID is part of that. And the Insurrection Act says that whenever the president determines that the courts no longer function properly, the system of government is being subverted by a conspiracy to violate the rights of the American people, he may take whatever actions necessary to protect the rights of the American people. It's a very, very open-ended power. He could have used that and said, okay, I'm going to go seize the evidence of the election fraud. I'm going to open investigations into all of these, the corrupt entities that took part in this coup. And they admitted it. Like the Time magazine article that came out in February of 2021 acknowledged that there was a conspiracy, there was a coordinated effort across the spectrum on both left and right. The establishment got together and said, let's make sure that we stop Trump. They call it saving democracy, right? How we save democracy. But it really was is how they stopped Trump. And they did it through COVID-19 as the excuse. So bottom line is that to dismantle all of that, I think the best way to do it is what I called on him to do. In addition to booking the Insurrection Act, I called on him to use his absolute power to declassify anything that's classified as secret by the CIA, NSA, FBI, or wherever. You can declassify all that and show all the dirty secrets of the elites, expose them all. And what I said in this open letter, I said, the secrets that are classified are the swamp water is swimming. It both protects them and controls them. So long as they do what they're told, they're safe. They all become millionaires, right? They're in the club. And if they cross the line and do something that they're not told to do, they can be exposed and destroyed. That's how they're held. So it's both blackmail and bribery. That's what the system is. I think it's pretty obvious now. So I wanted President Trump to do, he still could do right now, go and declassify anything that's not a legitimate secret, declassify it and expose it. Show exactly who's corrupt. The same thing that Elon Musk did with Twitter needs to be done throughout the government, every agency, every level, but also including the judges and the bankers up and down the chain. Show all the collusion, just like with the Twitter files, right? You're showing CIA, DHS, FBI sitting in on staff meetings and Twitter deciding who to censor. That show what's really going on behind the scenes. That's a window into the deep state, right? How they operate. Same thing should be done across the spectrum. That's what I think should happen. Mass disclosure, mass revelations of who's corrupt, who's a pedophile, who's taking money from China, all the corruption, all the insider trading that they've been doing, expose all of it across the board, including among the judges. And then you have a reckoning after that. But first needs to be exposure. And President Trump can do that right now in the executive branch. He doesn't need Congress to do that. In fact, he should do it to Congress. He should go through the same thing, all the dirt on all the congressmen and senators on both sides of the political aisle, expose it all, throw it out there for the public to see. It'll be a mess, but that's the fastest way to take the deep state down right there is exposure. Hands down.
Wow,
Nothing
wow.
comes nothing comes close. Nothing comes close to
Wow.
that.
I'm gonna break this episode into two parts because we just kept going, but this is so fascinating, brother. This is actually really interesting, and this is flying by. I can't believe we've been talking for over 2 hours now.
Right.
Now tell me about your future. I mean, I would love to have you in office because you are so much better read than and I've talked to these congressional members. I mean, some of these guys, I'm like, how could you even be in this position with the low intellect that you are? And I won't give names, but I run into these people all the time. You
Right.
obviously have much higher intellect. You obviously, Yale Law School. I mean, you understand constitutional law. Like, what does the future hold for you? Where do you see yourself?
I mean, I've had people ask me about that. My mission right now is to take the deep state down. That's still my mission, and I want to focus on that. So if I can help, I'm gonna, I'd be happy to testify. I'd love to work for Tulsi Gabbard or Cash Patel and work on declassification. Like I said, I really do believe that's the secret. That's the secret sauce right now, and they're making steps towards that. I've heard Cash Patel talk about a classification office. That's the full time office of declassification, and they're already working on declassifying some things. I just want them to go faster and harder. And I really think they need to go. It's kind of like if you're being raided by the cops, they don't want you flushing stuff down the toilet, right? So they raid you, hit you hard and fast, so you have less time to destroy evidence. Well, the same thing here with the deep state. The longer it takes and the slower you go about it, the more time they're going to have to go and destroy evidence, like the J6, so-called select committee did, right? They destroyed a bunch of evidence. I'm sure they didn't destroy everything. So right away they should be in there just digging in there in someone's email and some backup server somewhere, or all those interviews they supposedly destroyed. I think they're
Hmm.
still there somewhere. They should be going after all that. Job
Yeah.
one, go after, and then in all the communications in the FBI, between the prosecutors and the FBI, between the prosecutors and members of Congress, all that should be found right now.
Hmm.
But the longer you wait, the more time they're going to have to destroy evidence.
Yeah.
And the same goes across the spectrum. If I'm advocating that you go and throw the doors open and dump all the skeletons out of the closet, we'll go do that. They're going to be, destroying evidence the whole time. So like with the Epstein
I
stuff,
mean, do
right?
you
I'm sure
think?
they destroyed plenty of evidence.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, seems like they're taking a long time. A lot of
Right.
people are critical of Pam Bondi. I mean, is that intentional? What's going on there? Everybody's waiting for these Epstein files, and they just seem to be taking their sweet time with it.
Well, I mean, she's to be fair to her, she issued orders to the FBI to turn stuff over, and then she got pissed that they didn't give her what she wanted, and now they're giving them more, right? But that's the problem. Like when I wrote those open letters to President Trump, what I advocated, because this is in the timeline between the election and January 20th, so he got to work fast. I said, hey, use military intelligence, use SOCOM troops, go seize you're commander in chief. You have absolute authority to do what you want with all this information. You go seize it. You could send all the FBI agents home for the day, bring your military intelligence in there, get the damn data, um, decide what you're going to disclose and declassify, and get it done. Don't trust them to do it with you. You don't have someone you suspect of being, or are criminals who are going to hide evidence. You don't leave them in the office and ask them to produce the evidence against themselves. That's just dumb. You have to bring in an outside entity to seize it right away, do a raid, seize it, kick them out of the damn office, take it over. That's what they do. When the FBI steps into an investigation of a sheriff's department somewhere in the United States, they show up and they raid the place and gather evidence and go into their computers and take over, right? Well, you need to do the same thing with the FBI. And I really think that military intelligence would be the ones doing that. That's what I would do. I would just come in with my bring in, SOCOM, bring in the Army Rangers and SOCOM troops and go in there and seize the damn building and do what you got to do. Put military intelligence in charge of it. So, but they don't be as dramatic, but they can say, hey, everybody out of the building. I'm bringing in my team, in my
Mhm.
executive branch. He can go find military intelligence officers, hire them under DNI, hire them under Tulsi Gabbard, bring her in there, and let her go in there and identify what needs to be brought out and investigated and declassified. And Pam Bondi can send in a special prosecutor too. But you got to seize the territory. You got to seize the evidence. You can't leave them in place and let them to continue to destroy it. They're like shredders are going 24/7 right now. I'm sure the shredders, the bleach blit, whatever the hell they use for Hillary's disk drives. What they use? What do they call
Mhm.
that? They're into destroying evidence right now. So why
Yeah.
why would you want to give them time to do that? Just go seize it for crying out loud.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know for a fact you could do a lot of if stuff's on a hard drive, you could do a lot of things to a hard drive. I mean, other than literally incinerating it, there's still information on there. You could retrieve information even if it's been erased off of a hard drive. Even if the hard drive's been formatted, they could still find that information on there.
Right. So you're in a race. It takes them a long time to go destroy stuff. But the longer you wait, the more they're going to destroy. They're going to hide their tracks and cover what they did. So I think seizure of the data has to be priority number one. That goes for the NSA. NSA's got everything, right? So go grab that building and say, okay, now we're controlling it. Whoever Trump's trusted people are, and I think you can trust Tulsi Gabbard to do that, and I think you can trust Kash Patel. So I would use Tulsi Gabbard's office, probably the DNI, to make sure it gets done. Your preservation of evidence, basic job
Mhm.
one, and the AG should be helping through whatever mechanisms they have to. They've got to secure and protect that evidence. Bottom line, right?
Yeah, yep. Stewart, this has been an awesome episode, man. I really appreciate you coming on to the Blood Money podcast, and I'd love to have you on in the very near future because there's a lot more we could talk about.
For sure. Anytime, man.
Thank you. Thank you. And for the viewers out there, thank you for joining us for this episode of Blood Money. Make sure you check out americahappens.com where we have a lot of our featured episodes placed. And you should also check out our Roku account and our Rumble channel. I will see you all on the next episode of Blood Money.